Hello, everyone. This is Dr. Lawrence Clark speaking to you today. I'm an associate professor of economics and finance, and I'm going to present to you the dollar bill show, or what's known as a brief history of currency in the United States of America. This is going to be part one of a three-part series for you. The first thing we're going to talk about is paper currency, and the first thing you need to know, despite its name, it's not paper. Paper currency is actually made of a blend of about 75% cotton, about 25% linen rag. It's really a type of denim or blue jean material. This can easily be demonstrated by the fact that when you send a piece of paper through the washing machine, it comes back all icky. If you send currency through the washing machine, it comes out not bad. Pretty much the same way it went in. Why? It's more of a fabric than a paper. It has, the paper you'll notice has red and blue stripes. They're an counterfeiting measure embedded in the paper. And the paper made by the Crane Company, and access to it is tightly controlled, and that's how you get the unique feel of U.S. currency. It's printed by the Bureau of Engraving and the U.S. Department of Treasury, either in their Fort Worth, Texas plant or Washington, D.C. plant. And I'll teach you later on how to tell it where it was printed. The ink is used. It's magnetic green-black ink. Each denomination of currency has its own particular magnetic properties to it. It's, again, an anti-counterfeiting method. It's printed using the complicated and expensive intaglio engraved steel plate method, which gives the currency, though the note, an embraced or embossed feel. That's why if you ever rub your fingers across your U.S. currency, you'll see it has a raised feel. It's not exactly, ink's not in the paper, it sits on top of the paper. The notes are ordered from the U.S. Bureau of Engraving by the Federal Reserve, and they pay roughly about 10.4 cents per note, regardless of denomination. And you may be thinking, well, that's a pretty good deal. Yeah, you better believe it. You can buy a dollar bill or 100 pennies for 10.4 pennies. Or you can buy a $100 bill. The Federal Reserve can buy a $100 bill from the U.S. Treasury for what? 10.4 cents a note, or 10,000 pennies for only 10.4 pennies. Not a bad deal. The difference between the two is the profit margin called seigniorage. It's a one-time monopoly profit that can be made by the issuer of currency. And again, it only happens the first time it's issued, and it's only for notes that are put into current use for the first time. Seigniorage doesn't occur on replacement notes, but it's a pretty good deal. First thing you got to know about the U.S. currency is that there's a front and back of any currency, and same with a coin. And they actually have technical names. The front of it's called the obverse, and the back is called, guess what? The reverse side. All right, and the U.S. currency, you'll notice, has the left-hand side. You'll see the signature of the Treasury of the United States, and on the right-hand side will be the Secretary of the Treasury of the United States. But above all, you should notice whose name's on top. Okay, it says Federal Reserve Note. Right? Federal Reserve Note. Don't miss that. Why? Because it's the Federal Reserve Bank of the United States of America that issues U.S. currency. How can you tell what Federal Reserve Bank issued it? Well, there's 12 of them throughout the country, and these are the districts. These are the various Federal Reserve districts. Each one has a regional jurisdiction, if you like. They were set up in 1913, and they reflect the economic and political realities of 1913. You may want to, that's why you may want, they don't seem to make much sense, these regions today. For instance, San Francisco, over on the left-hand side, it controls the whole state of California, which is the largest single state economy in the United States, as well as the western third of the United States, plus Alaska, Hawaii, and most of the Pacific Ocean. Then you go to another little, let's say, Philadelphia Federal Reserve Bank. It handles a little bit of southern New Jersey, a little bit of eastern Pennsylvania. Let's not work too hard. And then you get into like Missouri. Missouri has two Federal Reserve Banks, one in St. Louis, one in Kansas City. All right? Sometime I'll talk to you more about the Federal Reserve districts. All right? Now, how do you know which Federal Reserve Bank issued this note? Well, each Federal Reserve Bank issues replacement notes and new currency for their districts. Well, in this particular note, you'll notice next to the 1, there's a number 12 in all four corners. And that refers to the Fed district issuing the note. In this case, it's 12. Let's see what 12 matches up with. 12 refers to Federal Reserve District 12, or the San Francisco Federal Reserve District. That's how you figure out which Federal Reserve Bank issued this particular note. And furthermore, look at that 12. Here's a blow-up. Look for the 12 there, and also see the black seal to the right of the 12? What does it say there? Federal Reserve Bank note, Federal Reserve Bank of San Francisco, California. That's the other way you can tell which Federal Reserve Bank issued it. The seal will match up the district number. And also notice there's a letter inside the seal. This particular column one has the letter L inside. What does L? Well, if you think about it, the letter L is what numerical position of the alphabet? And if you said the 12th position, you'd be correct. Again, another little check and double check, maybe a light little anti-counterfeiting measure. The L is the 12th letter, matches up to the 12th Federal Reserve District, which matches up to the name on the little seal there, San Francisco, California. So that's how we know what Federal Reserve Bank issued this. Also, next to the 12, we'll see a letter and a smaller number, 2. So in this case, we have E2. Well, this is going to refer to the letter E refers to the row number and the 2, the column number of, guess what? A sheet of paper. When currency is printed, it's printed on a sheet of paper with 8 rows, 4 columns. And so there's basically 32 currency notes on each sheet that's printed. And the E2 tells you what position number that particular note came from. In my little example there, it says E2, and E2 refers to row E, column 2, and that would be the numerical position of that. All right. And you can see if you have a particular note, typical US dollar bill on hand, you can look at and see what position yours came from. Also, just as a little side, you can purchase uncut sheets of US currency from the Bureau of Engraving. To tell you what, like a $1 bill uncut sheet, it would have $32 worth of value, but they would sell it for $61 or something like that. You can buy 1s, 2s, and 5s up to 32. The 50s and the 100s and the 20s, I think they only sell in 16 and 8 units. But you can go to their website and check if you want to impress somebody and give them an uncut sheet of U.S. currency. It's available for about twice what the numerical value of the currency is. Okay, moving to the right-hand corner of the U.S. dollar bill, still on the front side, we'll see a couple things. First of all, I want to talk to you about the series number. It says Series 2006. A lot of people think this is the year the currency note was printed. It is not. It was the design year. What particular design? This is Series 2006. This is from the year 2006 design year. And basically, every time there's a major change made to the U.S. the design of the U.S. currency note, comes out a new series. For instance, to the right-hand side, you'll see at the time the Secretary of the U.S. Treasury, Henry M. Paulson. Now, when he replaced the Secretary of Treasury, they will come out with a new series. For instance, when Timothy Geithner became Treasury Secretary in 2009, we see Series 2009. Sometimes, so it's only not the year it was printed, it was the year that the currency was designed. So every time they make a major change to the U.S. currency note, that comes out with a new series. If they make a minor change to it, you may come out with something Series 2006, and it'll have a letter after it, like 2006A, 2006B, 2006C. That means a minor change was made to that particular series note. A minor change would be we get a new Treasurer of the United States. The Treasurer of the United States is not as important as the Secretary of the Treasurer, so they would come out with 2006A if we got a new Treasurer of the Secretary, and we still retain this old Secretary of the Treasurer. So anyway, that's how it goes on there. Off to the right there, I told you earlier that I'll show you how you can tell where your money was printed. It's either printed in Washington, D.C. or Fort Worth, Texas. Off to the right, you'll see the letter FWE103. Well, first of all, the E103 refers to the plate number. Each note is printed with its own plate, and it's done so they can identify it and find out if there's a mistake or something, an error, which plate was responsible, take it off and destroy it. Also, if it has the FW in front of it, that means it was printed in Fort Worth, Texas. And if it has nothing in front of it, that means it was printed in Washington, D.C. So that's how you can tell where your note was printed from. Also, you may notice we have the big green Treasury seal in the middle there. A green color means it's a Federal Reserve note. Okay, it can be other colors as well. Orange color means it's a gold note. A blue seal means it's a silver certificate. There are red, which means it's a U.S. currency note, U.S. bank note. And there's some brown colors too, which we'll talk about later, but it's not always been green. It's only green if it's a U.S. Federal Reserve note. Inside, you'll notice the Treasury seal there, just to show you a little symbolism there. We got the upside down chevron, the upside down B there, and you'll see like dots inside. Those are called mullets or stars. There's 13 of them representing the 13 colonies, the original colonies of the United States. The scale represents justice, and the key represents trust and authority there. Okay, that's that one. The next big thing is the front of the dollar bills. Pay attention to the serial numbers. These are the serial numbers there. And the serial numbers go from basically 1 to, well, they're printed in 100 million denomination lots. So they start off at 1, 0, 0 all the way down, and go up to 99,999,999. Now, the serial number starts with the letter. And the first letter that begins with, you'll see, is L. Guess what? That L starts with the Federal Reserve Bank that issued it. This is how you can, little counterfeiting measure. L means the Federal Reserve Bank of San Francisco issued it. And then you'll see the number there. It's 72,896,370. And the letter J, it means it's a J series. They start with the letter L, and they go 0001 of the A series, then they get to 100 million, they switch over to the B series, and then the C series, and then the D series. That's what that last letter means. This is of the J series. They go all the way to Z. They do skip the letter O. O is not used because it looks too much like a 0. Okay, so that's how you can tell. Now you may notice another issue. How do they get to 100 million? Because if you notice there's not quite enough digits to show 100 millionth. Well, when they get to the 100th millionth, they use a star note. They replace the letter at the end with a little mullet or star. And this is an example of a star note. And if you take a look at it, it's a little bit different. So guess what Federal Reserve District issued this one, this note. Excuse me. So then that's a little mullet there, and that's the star note, and this represents one or two things. Either it's the 100th millionth of the series, or sometimes a mullet is used when, or a star is used when a note is damaged in the production process, rather than replace the whole series, and they just replace the damaged note with a serial number that starts with a star at the end. Okay, so it's either, if you ever get a star note, it's either a rare one, it's like 1 in 100 millionth, or it's been a replacement note for one that's been damaged in the printing process. The last thing I'll talk to you a little bit about is some people think up here in the corner there's a hidden owl in the number 1 up here. I'll leave to your imagination. It's just really just where the lines come together. It's more of an artistic or an optical illusion than an actual hidden owl in the little corner there. But I'll allow you to make the final judgment on that. Now, with that, we'll leave off. In the next section, I'll talk to you about part 2 of 3, which will discuss the back of the dollar bill. Take care. Talk to you next time. Bye-bye.